We're going to start with our Dollar Tree sign, some black felt, and a ribbon of your choice. We're just going to give this little sign a makeover, kind of do a little upgrade, make it a little more subtle. First thing you're going to do is take your burlap off of your red felt, and that seems to go pretty good here. You never know. Sometimes things are easier, sometimes they're more difficult. Be sure if you take your time and don't rip up your felt, then you can use it for a future project. And it's not that I don't like the red felt. I just think it was a little too much for this sign. Putting the black on it made a big difference. When you take up your bow, this one was so difficult. It actually started ripping the felt heart. So just be careful, take care, pay attention to what's going on. The second one just popped right off. We're going to fray the edges of our burlap. Now the side to side, the strings weren't even, so you had to be real careful to cut the strings. If you just pulled one string all the way across, you're going to end up with 1/2 inch of fray on one side and 2 inches on the other. So you really need to pay attention when you're doing the fraying so that you get a good even fray. Cutting off the interfacing helps too. That way the strings aren't attached to anything. Now the up and down, the strings were perfectly straight. So you could just pull a string and it was there. Then I get kind of sidetracked and think, oh, I got to move these buttons. And so I grab my scissors to cut the threads and then think, this is Dollar Tree. There aren't any threads. It's just hot glued. So I pop those off and then get back to pulling strings to fray it. And like I said, the up and down was so easy because you can just pull these threads, pull the string straight out. But it is going to go easier if you remove the interfacing. So I pull that. That side came off really easy. The other side was more difficult. I didn't make you watch that. Now be real careful on your corners because if you pull too hard, then the strings will come apart and then you won't have a good crisp corner. Now that side looks pretty good, so I'll move on to the other and just pull the strings out. They were very straight up and down, so all I had to do is pull the string straight out. Now the top and the bottom, the strings weren't straight, so it was a lot of work to actually fray them evenly. So I decided to go ahead and cut that work off and then redo it. There was just too much room at the top and the bottom, so I cut those off, made them shorter, and then had to redo all of the fraying. And again, just be real careful on that because those strings were not straight across at all. So you have to pull it out and then just make sure you cut off before you fray too much on one side or the other. So on cutting the background piece, I went ahead and used my mat, my ruler, and my rotary cutter. I typically just eyeball things, but I did want these edges to be good and straight since they were the background of the piece. Nothing's more satisfying than pulling that across once you get a good straight cut. Now again, I'm just kind of eyeballing it, but using the background mat to get a good straight edge on the background piece. It's really important to use the proper tools. It makes life much easier. And using the grid on the mat and then a ruler and the rotary tool really gives you a good clean edge. I mean, you can do it with scissors if you're more talented than I am. My scissor work is not the best. Now here I was using hot glue to put the burlap back onto the background, which ended up not being the best idea because after I moved that interfacing, it comes through the burlap, so you have to be really careful. I went to Fabri-Tac to use to secure the rest of the piece, and it worked out perfectly. I didn't burn my hands, and it's got a good strong grip for the fabric. It's one of my favorite glues, especially when using it on fabric, but it's kind of gel-like, and so it doesn't slide around like some other glues can. Now we're going to move to putting the bows on the hearts. Now I used this gingham ribbon, which I think looked really cute. Now when I make a bow, I'll do a video on that and link it down below on how to make just simple bows. Back when I was a kid, my mother would have us hold our fingers out to the size she wanted her bow, and then she would tie around our fingers. But because I don't have anybody to hold their fingers out for me, I use my bow at all. I just move the bars to whatever size I want my bow and tie it that way. Now when cutting off my edges or my tails, I like to use just the angle on a little ribbon like this. Typically I'll do a dovetail, especially on a bigger ribbon. This ribbon frays a lot, so I wanted to put something on the ends so that it doesn't fray. Now I know there's fray check, but sometimes that'll discolor your ribbon. So I like to use just a watered down glue, or actually I use the fabric stiffener. I put it in a different bottle because the sprayer always gets clogged up, and then it gets clogged up in the small bottle as well. So as every crafter knows, you just learn to improvise. And so I use the wand on the sprayer to just dip into the product and just kind of dab it on the ends of the ribbon. And that seems to work perfectly. Stiffen stuff, that's what I was using. It's normally $9 at Hobby Lobby, but I got it for $2.24. And I think it was just because the bottle was dinged up a little. So now we'll add our bows to our hearts, and be real careful. I'm using hot glue, and right there I burned my finger with the hot glue. We all know we can do that, and again, tools are important. So I grabbed my silicone makeup applicator, and I use that to squish my bow on there. We all know as crafters that we'll never get convicted of a crime because our fingerprints were found somewhere, because we don't have fingerprints because of all the hot glue burns. But we'll add this second one on. Using our tool so we don't burn ourselves. And they look good, so I think we're done. So now I try to decide what I want to put in the middle of the bow. I don't really want to use the red felt heart that was on the raffia. So I pull out some stuff from my stash and start going through that. So going through my stash, I probably show more of this than I need to. It kind of drags on. But I like people to see that all of this isn't just instant. I know with YouTube we can kind of watch crafters, and I watch a ton of them, and it just looks like everything came so easily and turned out so perfectly, but it usually takes a little bit of time to get that exact right piece and get it to where you like it. I mean, some people may, well, in this one I did happen to pick the first thing is what I ended up using, but sometimes we just want to make sure and check all the different items, see if something else works. I used those little hearts, but they were too little, and then the puffy heart just wasn't the right color. I always tell myself it doesn't cost extra to just go ahead and look at different options. I checked to see if the pink roses would look good, but again, just the wrong color. So ultimately, it was just the little miniature red roses. And I think they turned out perfect. They're so pretty. Now on to a hanger. The hanger that came with it was just too small. So I decided to use something that had a little more heft to it. So this is just a jute twine I got from Hobby Lobby. So now to decide what I want to use. Put the buttons back on? I don't think so. How about some red felt hearts? I don't think so. How about some wooden hearts? No. The winner is just some little twine bows. Very understated, but just finishes it off really cute. Again, hot glue. Use the right tool. Don't burn yourself. This is actually the first video I filmed and edited. It's the second one I'll upload to my channel, but a lot of lessons learned here. One, you saw it jumping around a lot there because I had the camera sitting on the table, and every time I bump the table, it makes the screen jump. So sorry about that, lesson learned. But I would appreciate it if you like this video to give it a thumbs up. Would also love it if you would subscribe to my channel. At the time I was doing the voiceover on this video, I have 6 subscribers, so it'll be kind of fun to watch it grow. Well, here's the finished project. I hope you like it as much as I do. And thanks again for watching, and we will see you on the next video.